All of us have to make that transition between new trainer and confident facilitator. But when you're there, there's still always new things that might throw you a curveball. And I think one that's really throwing us a curveball right now is AI, ChatGPT. What is going on in the world of computer algorithms and all that sort of stuff? I think there is a little bit of fear in the training community specifically that we live in a world AI can deliver information instantly, sometimes better than we can. And so the question is, where do you see the role of a facilitator evolving in the future, given the fact that we have some of these tools and resources? And then what can we potentially do to embrace it and not necessarily be so frightened of it, but really to work through that model and really move towards that confidence that we've been talking about today?
Well, I won't pretend to be an expert on AI and how we are going to evolve. However, you said a word that is the key: embrace. How do we embrace it? As a trainer, you may or may not be an instructional designer who's used to creating your presentations, getting the research, putting it together. You may be the person that does that. AI can aid in getting that together. I resisted AI at first, I'll admit it. When ChatGPT came out, I was like, I don't want to use that. I don't want to speak to a computer and get my answers. I'll look it up myself. And when I finally gave in and I tried, I was like, this saves so much time. I can just get what I need here and then just adapt it, improve it. And it does give you a really good blueprint or a skeleton to work off of. You just build on it. And then after that, you add your own personal touches. AI will always be AI. Even if it starts to be a little bit more like human like, it will still be AI. And there are some aspects of just being a person and being a human that we bring to it. For
Um,
example, if we're just looking at person to person, there's no other Rachel DeRose other than me. There's no other Nate Key. There's no other Hannah Connect. We're all very different, and we bring our own perspectives, personality, our own touch when we're training. Even if we had the same exact information, our trainings would be different. And so there is an importance, in my perspective, of engaging and embracing, utilizing AI to save time and be more efficient, and then you bring your part of it, because there is that personal interaction that we as humans just like. I could just send someone to go look it up online or use AI to get the answer, and they'll probably get the answer. But having a discussion, having a conversation really aids in allowing for you to build on that knowledge and lock it in long term. That's my perspective on it. AI won't replace trainers and facilitators, but we can definitely use it to our advantage.
yeah. The idea here is moving from just delivering content to being a part of a curated learning experience, but one that's really focused on human connection. And I like that because I think that's what AI can't replicate is the human connection. It can get the answers. It can cut corners, not cut corners in the wrong way, but it can get things faster. It might even be able to help us ideate or brainstorm or think about things in a new way, in a different way, but it can't be you and it can't be me and it can't be Hannah. It can't actually empathize with the other person on the other side of the screen, even if it's programmed to show it, right? It's not truly empathy. It's always just programming. And so I think that you're right. Like we bring that amazing element that's just humanity. And that is what it means to be confident.
Yeah. I've always thought this for a while, but training and teaching is a science, but it's just as much an art.
Mm.
And so, as we embrace AI, which is like the science piece, we've got to bring that art piece to it, which is that personal interaction, that human experience, that curation of the learning experience. I also see that as the ability to adapt
Mm.
in real time with your learners and adapting to their needs. And that's something that right now does set us apart from AI as human facilitators. But no matter what the long term is, AI cannot replace self reflection. It just can't. It also cannot replace human discernment And so, as teachers and educators, we bring the opportunity to curate a learning experience for our students where they're self reflecting. We're self reflecting. We're modeling that. And that's something AI can't do for them. It can't do itself in the same way that discernment piece of being able to discern almost through an intuitive nature. AI doesn't have intuition the way that a human does. And so, we're never gonna be able to replace that with a technology or machine.
What you're saying is AI can provide us with the information to make good decisions, but it can't make those decisions for us. It can provide us with the information we need in order to learn something new, but it can't actually learn for us. We're the ones that have to do that. And so, as a facilitator of that, being able to curate these good experiences and then also being able to step aside and look at a learner and say, you've got all the information, but something isn't clicking for you. You have everything you need, but what do you really need to learn this? And that's what it's not going to be able to do and replicate is that discernment, like you're talking about, that noticing, the ability to look at each person in that room or each person online or even in the chat, just see the comments and be able to discern, like, oh, this person needs something different. Let me pivot.
Exactly. And that's that human touch. That's that human ability to be able to look and go, oh, they're not getting it. Okay, let me help them. Or to just realize that something's off, right? A lot of times when I'm training, whether it's in person or virtually, I'm really looking at each individual to just see if they're with me and if I need to make any changes. And so a lot of times it's that human interaction that really allows us to mold the training to what the audience needs. A lot of times when we're using AI, they're just giving you that straight answer, boom, that's it. They're not the AI is not really considering if you really got it. It's just like, here's the answer to your question, right? We're truly considering, are they getting it? And then we're able, like you said, to pivot if necessary and have that ability to empathize and say, okay, and if we're having some of those touchy conversations, really have that human empathy of, hey, okay, this is, I know it's hard. Yes, we are going through the emotional change curve, which is based on the grief curve as well. It's very similar. So it's like, yes, we're going through this. AI doesn't go through that. So it is different in that way.
Yeah. I think building confidence stems on repetition. And I was in a really interesting How the Brain Learns webinar a few weeks ago. And the scientist who was leading said something that stuck with me about how a human brain needs to do something, repeat something 60 times in order to truly master it. And so, as we're standing up in front of students, whether it's in the K 12 classroom, whether it's online virtually with adult learners, by doing that over and over again, repeating the process of facilitating and leaning into our discomfort and creating that bubble we've been talking about, that safe space,
Mm.
that's how we're going to build the competence. And then the competence will in turn lead to the confidence. Even though I think when we do get in front of large audiences, there are certain ones of us that our personalities are still a little nervous. And I think that's completely natural and normal.
Mm-hmm.
When you mentioned that, I laughed because in some ways that kind of takes the pressure off of us as well, because if I know it's going to take Rachel 60 times doing this, then my script, even if I get it right, it doesn't really matter because she needs to hear it another 60 times for it to really sink in. So if I messed it up or I didn't follow it exactly as needed, like there should be some sort of spaced reinforcement and some sort of accountability on her part to go back and look at that information over and over again. So in some ways, I think that also takes a little bit of that weight off of me. I'm going to get it right sometimes. I'm not going to get it right every time, but it's not all on me anyway.
Yep, and every time is an iteration where we're able to learn from that experience and reflect back on, okay, what went really well that I'm going to bring to my next training session and what really didn't work or I didn't do so great on or my students didn't respond the way that I expected them to that I can
Mhm.
change in my future training sessions.
Yeah, that's a good point. We as learning professionals are learning how to better our trainings and our facilitations. So a lot of the times we're adjusting as we go. We can see if we missed it somewhere. We can see if that didn't really land the way it needed to land, and we just adjust for the future. When I got to the point that I was really confident in my trainings and workshops, it was years into me being a trainer. And it was from the different experiences I had over the years that I was able to say, all right, but I don't want to do it this way. I want to make sure I do it this way. Okay, I need to ask questions. All right, let me bring in real life scenarios so that they can apply it in discussion and then they can really lock in on like, oh, this is how I would respond in a true scenario rather than this obscure scenario that the trainer's giving me, right? So a lot of those experiences I learned from and adapted later. In fact, one of the things that I do as a trainer is I try my best to humanize myself to whoever I'm teaching. So if I make a mistake, I sometimes call myself out. I laugh about it. I'll say like, "Ooh, I said that wrong," or "Oh, that's a typo there. I'll fix that later." I don't want them to be looking and going like, "Oh, that's a typo on there. She messed that up." I'll say it. And I'm just like, "Oh, I made a mistake. No worries. If my camera's not working, I'll address it." So I just make sure that they're aware that I'm also human and I'm working through it, I'm learning, and that makes me feel more relaxed because I'm not expected to be basically AI. Like, I'm not expected to be this perfect thing that can just give you the right thing all the time. Okay, I might make mistakes. And if I make mistakes and it's okay if my learners make mistakes. And so it just gives both of us that comfort to learn together.
Mm.
Letting go of perfectionism. Yes, I love that.